All test dope beat.
What's good, y'all? If you know me, my name is Saad. If you don't, now you do. Today I'm going to be talking about a couple of my tweets I done got off the other day. Basically just how I relate to everything. And I'm going to go a little more in detail that 180 characters or 240 or whatever the number is now wouldn't let me do. And shit, I can talk about it more extensively and more in detail. So we're going to get right into it. So the knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is everywhere now. It's the age of information, you feel me? But that's easy to come by. It's just like spirituality. Everybody's spiritual now. That's easy. Everybody can do that shit. Everybody can access information. Everybody can gain knowledge. And everybody can claim or practice spirituality. Nowadays, it's a more specific thing that separates you from the masses of the people. People who aren't necessarily the most conscious and shit. And I'll call that the filter of infinite consciousness and shit. And what that is basically based on your perception, based on your infinite self, basically, which is how you connect to the different natural cycles and shit, whether it be positive or negative, how you connect to time, how you interact with life, how you interact with the concept of death, how you interact with love and jealousy and ego and patience, just the different entities of energy that cycle throughout the universe that everybody has access to and has access as well to everybody else. Your infinite consciousness is your connection to those things and how you interact with those things and how those things interact with you and how they project based on your experiences in your life and how you live and shit. So somebody else's perception of death might not be your perception of death, you feel me? But each thing is an energy, a concept, an ideology, a principle, and a natural cycle that you project through your own perception and shit. And through your connection through that, your consciousness becomes infinite because you connect consciously. Your will connects to these different concepts energetically. And if your infinite consciousness pulls from the negative cycles of nature, like ego, like jealousy, just anything negative that's a natural cycle in nature, destruction, chaos, things like that, your filter becomes clogged with that negative energy. And you can't discern the information that's so easily accessible. And you can't filter it, and you can't access it and pull the truth from it that needs to be pulled from it. Because everything nowadays is mixed with, we call it tricknology. So basically, it's like falsehood mixed with truth. That shit, you feel me? So somebody might tell you a lie, but it sprinkled a little bit of truth in there. So they're not exactly lying to you and shit. But your perception is left to interpret it in a multitude of different ways to where you might not exactly get the truth out of it and shit. So nowadays, in this age of unbounded information, you need to have a proper filter. And if you have any negative energy attached to you and shit from your experiences, from your trauma, from your pain, just anything that you've been through, if you connect too much over to the negative cycles of nature, your filter will be distorted and that knowledge won't filter too well into truth. You feel me? It won't filter too well that way, and you'll be corrupted. Your data information that you store in your brain will be corrupted. You will have a knowledge base that is tainted by false information type shit. It's the difference between knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You can have a knowledge of a thing without having an understanding of a thing, and you can have an understanding of a thing without being wise or carrying that over into wisdom. Knowledge is just the acknowledgement of a specific entity. Understanding is the awareness of how that entity works, and wisdom is the application of the understanding to life itself type shit. And your infinite consciousness is basically your perception and your will of awareness to the different infinite cycles of the natural universe and shit. That's why it's so important for you to be rooted in the positive side. That's why your morals and things are supposed to be opinionated. It's supposed to be objective, not subjective. Your morals are supposed to be objective. Your beliefs are supposed to be objective. Your ideologies and where you connect your spiritual beliefs to are supposed to be objective. Because when they're subjective, they are susceptible to the negative cycles of nature, to attaching to negative energy, to negative entities and concepts and shit of the natural universe. And that's why you're supposed to be more rooted in a positive nature, because that negative nature can seep in and distort your mind and shit. Everybody has infinite consciousness. Everybody. Just like in the outer cycles of the universe, it has been proven that through quantum physics that parallel universes are a real thing. They might not, scientists nowadays might not be the most knowledgeable on parallel universes and how to access them and how they work, but they have been able to prove through scientific research, and you can look this up for yourself, that these things do exist, that parallel realities do exist. But because the universe is an infinite space-time entity, there are universes within universes and shit. Consciousnesses within consciousnesses, wheels within wheels type shit. That's how the universe is created. That's how the universe is structured. Cycles within cycles and shit. Infinite cycles. So just like in these outer realms where there's parallel universes, each physical person, it has his own consciousness, his own perception, and through that perception has created his own universe of existence. So each person is a walking parallel reality in contrast to yourself, with consciousness being the nucleus for each living entity. Each different living entity with the wheel of awareness and consciousness has a nucleus of consciousness that is a basic structure of all consciousness and all awareness type shit. And it's the experiences, it's the wheel of awareness that designs this consciousness, this nucleus, and forms the outer shells to where you becoming your own individual and shit, instead of just everybody being a copy of another person type shit. Each different experience and perception is unique to each individual. It's like two thumbprints aren't exactly the same. Even your own two thumbprints aren't exactly the same. Everybody's fingerprints are unique, just like their own perception, just like their consciousness and their experiences. So each person, look to the person next to you, the next person you see is another parallel reality in contrast to yourself. Every walking person. It's the same but a different version. So each person, each planet, each celestial body, each reality, and each natural cycle connecting it all is its own version of one universal conscious being. So each level, so we're gonna start with, say, a molecule, an atom. It has an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm for each part of its particles type shit, to where how many times the electrons and the protons rotate around the nucleus of the atom, or how many electrons and how many protons it has that makes up the genetic structure of the overall molecule and shit, you feel me? Each entity has this genetic code or this conscious algorithm, this energetic entity that decides mathematically what belongs where and how to be what. It's just like DNA. Each planet, each solar system is just a bigger structure of an atom and shit on an atomic level. So the sun would be the nucleus, and the different planets would be the protons and electrons. It's wheels, like I say, wheels within wheels, cycles within cycles. So the macrocosm reflects on the microcosm and vice versa. So just each planet, each celestial body, and each reality, and just like the natural cycles of life, death, love, hate, fear, jealousy, karma, things like that, it all has a mathematical algorithm. So for it to have an algorithm, it has to have a consciousness, a wheel in which it works type shit on a mathematical precise basis and shit. And because it has its own mathematical algorithm, it is in itself its own consciousness, its own universe, and it is a master of its own existence type shit. So each person is considered the same way because we have a genetic structure and we have experiences that left psychological impressions on us in our brain that alters the electrical signals that we receive in our nervous system, that sparks our thoughts and our behaviors and our actions. And so that's why we are masters of our own existence and shit. And why the mass of the sun, its genetic structure that controls its mass, controls how many planets orbit it. It controls whether or not the planet that's closer to it is habitable by life, or if the planet's surface is too hot. It controls if the planet farthest from it is too cold. The nucleus of the thing that contains the DNA structure, the genetic code, is the master of that body of existence. And this is also relevant in the natural cycles and shit. So life, death, the ego, karma, it is time, space. It carries a consciousness because it's an energy. It's a force of nature and shit. It cycles through existence at infinite pace. So it carries its own consciousness. When a person is close to death, there's this energy of death. When a person, say, has a terminal disease and is nearing closer and closer to death, you can feel it. It's a sensation. Not only is it a sensation for the person that's nearing closer to death, can they feel their body draining, and can they almost literally feel death coming closer and closer, but the people who are around them can feel the weakening state of the person laying there, and can also feel and sense that death is coming, because death itself is an energy. Death itself is a conscious entity and shit. It might not be conscious, say, as a human being might be, where it has appendages and it can control things with minds, and it can see and it can think and shit. But consciousness doesn't just mean personal or human traits. Consciousness can mean that it has a will, that it can be aware of certain things, maybe even that human beings themselves aren't even aware of. So you can sense death because it's energy. It has a signature and shit. Death cannot randomly come onto a person that is perfectly healthy unless it is caused by an outside entity. A person that's in perfect health won't all of a sudden get cancer out of nowhere. It has to brew, it has to stir and shit, you feel me? It might be an unhealthy lifestyle. It might be the result of hereditary genetics, or it might be the exposure to radiation or anything. But it has to be caused, and it has to be brought, it has to be attracted through electromagnetism. And the reason why we can feel a natural cycle like death, how we can sense it, is because it itself is an energy, and any energy that is carried throughout the atmosphere or throughout the universe can be detected, even if it's the slightest shift. And gravitational waves can be detected. Time alterations can be detected. Different fluctuations in energy itself can be detected. So death itself is an energetic entity and shit that has a will of awareness, so it knows that, okay, this person, it's time for this person to die and shit, or it's time, or this person is dying, or now they're getting healthy, so I must retreat and let them live their life and go on, move on to the next. And because everybody in existence eventually comes face to face with death, it is connected to each and every one of us on a very basic level and shit. So it's not that it itself is a person that can enter and exit people's beings and spirits and minds and things, but it connects us all. And because of that, it is also a master of its own existence and an infinite version of itself. And it also has influence over the different versions of existence under its influence, like say a human being or anything that has a physical existence is connected to death, because all things pass and all things go through the cycle of life and death if it's connected to a physical existence. There's always a higher plane of conscious existence to climb to, an infinite ladder made with strings of light waves, which is energy. Each strand of consciousness is a master to a specific part in all of existence. All of it cycles, all of it spirals, and all of it vibrates together as one major entity. So like death, so like a human, like an atom, like a molecule, like a chemical structure, like a person, like a planet, like a celestial body, like a reality itself, like a small pocket dimension, or just an overall natural cycle of universe. It's a ladder and shit, you feel me? It climbs and climbs and climbs and shit, almost at an infinite pace until you get into an omnipotent level to where it's master of an infinite space-time cycle. And each ladder, since it's its own energetic entity with its own consciousness and its own will of awareness, each one is a light wave, carries a particle and shit, because it's energy. Energy itself is also a state of creation. So there's three states of matter. There's gas, there's solid, there's liquid. There's also energy and plasma type shit. And I think plasma and energy are technically interchangeable. Each cycle itself is its own energetic will of awareness. It's its own state of being. It has particles and waves that can be detected, that can fluctuate through time and space, that interact with other waves and particles and share the algorithm based on the genetic code that is confined to. And this is where string theory comes from, where they say that at the basis of creation, at the fabric of reality, it's a stream of energy that's at its core a conscious algorithm, a mathematical expression, like they say, an expression and shit. And this relates to how God's word and shit, his word is not necessarily alphabetical, like A, B, C, D. Well, his word is an algorithm, a mathematical expression that all of existence is confined to. An algorithm that each level of existence and creation has to abide by, because God himself is a conscious will of awareness. He himself is an omnipotent energy of consciousness that gives his word, right? Gives his word, gives his mathematical expression, gives his algorithm, it gives his will. And each level of existence of creation has to abide and follow the guidelines of that will and of that algorithm. And it cannot step out of those bounds of its genetic code and shit. This is called string theory. It's like data, like in the Matrix, when it had the green data that was falling, like it was almost like rain, like streams of rain. It's an algorithm. It's a stream of data like DNA. DNA, it looks like a spiraling ladder. And so, like I say, the macrocosm is a reflection of the microcosm type shit. So, just like DNA, it is the very essence and everything in creation, the genetic structure, everything, even the air around us, has a genetic structure so that it knows to be oxygen, so it knows to be nitrogen, so it knows to be these different things that make up the molecular structure of the atmosphere around us. And so it's a ladder of infinite realms of consciousness, infinite higher and higher dimensions. And this connects to how human beings are genetically divine, especially those who are people of color, because they are more connected genetically to the algorithm or the genetic code of the universe itself and of the dark matter that makes up 70%, just like water is 70% of the planet, just like water is 70% of the human being. Dark matter makes up 70% of the known universe. It is what's unobservable type shit. It is what connects everything in existence. So gravity isn't necessarily a force that keeps us attached to the planet. It is more so an infinite particle of dark matter that connects everything and pulls everything in because of its electromagnetic attractions. So dark matter literally links, it's not only in the air around us, it's not only passing through me right now, it links the planets to the sun, it links the sun to the galaxy, it links all the different stars to the galaxy itself, but it's also the force that has been expanding it after the Big Bang and shit. So dark matter is literally the master force behind all of creation type shit. It is the highest form, or technically the lowest form, being that it's a particle of creation that carries this genetic algorithm and tells each thing what to be type shit. It literally connects everything. So I got this article pulled up right here because I don't want y'all to take my word for it. Like, I think I just know everything and shit. Like, and I want y'all to understand that these are things that are actually been proven in the scientific community type shit. That links literally to spirituality, meaning it's not magic, it's not hocus pocus, it's not some shit that can't be seen and unexplained that you just gotta have faith in. But all of these things can be proven scientifically and shit. Like, these things can be proven through math and science type shit. So the website is called themindunleashed.com, and the name of the article is New Science, DNA Begins as a Quantum Wave. So DNA begins on the smallest level as a waveform, as an energy output and shit. One strand of DNA from one single cell contains enough information to clone an entire organism, it says. Obviously, understanding DNA allows us to understand much about life and the universe around us. A deeper understanding of the new science tells us that DNA begins not as a molecule, but as a waveform, meaning as an energy, because all energy, gravitational, time, space, light, sound, all energy is expressed and comes in the form of a wave. Even more interestingly, this waveform exists as a pattern within time and space and is coded throughout the entire universe. So this wave, like I was saying, this energy is literally existent in every aspect of the atmosphere around us, in every essence of the universe and shit. It is literally coded, like they said, an algorithm. It is coded within the very space and time of our existence. The article goes on to say, we are surrounded by pulsating waves of invisible genetic information whose waves create microscopic gravitational forces that pull in atoms and molecules from their surrounding environment to construct DNA. So these energy waves are invisible genetic information. Like I was saying, dark matter is invisible. It is a universe that we cannot observe type shit. It's a whole entirely different entity. Like it's like the hand of God. It's an energy particle that is conscious and has its own energetic algorithm that has its hand on gravitation, space and time, and the genetic information inside of the atmosphere and the universe around us type shit. And it constructs the DNA. It pulls in the atoms and molecules from their surrounding environment type shit to construct DNA. So that means it manipulates gravity. And to manipulate gravity is to manipulate space and time, because gravity is nothing but a description of the manipulation of space and time and how space and time works around an object. That is literally what gravity is. The article then goes on to state, another phenomenal discovery was made when Dr. Fitz Albert Pock caught DNA in the act of pulling in photons. And photons are tiny pockets of energy to make up visible light. So light particles, basically. They caught the DNA pulling in light particles. The new science reveals that photons are essentially the basic health and function of DNA and are apparently used to send and receive information throughout the body or throughout an entity. He found that each DNA molecule stores up to 1,000 photons within itself, similar to that of a tiny fiber optic cable. The photons shoot back and forth at the speed of light inside the molecule and are stored until they need to be used. So these dark matter particles, right, manipulate gravity, manipulate time and space, and pulls at the electromagnetic structure of light photons, of light particles, and draws them in specific to a genetic code and algorithm, and creates DNA from these photons, from these light particles. And then from those light particles and from that algorithm, they decide what object they're going to be, whether they're going to be a plastic bottle or a can or a glass table or a wooden plank or a human being or a planet or a sun or any manner of things. It goes back to my point that it has its hand on everything. Like Stranger Things, how it has this upside down, how it has like a dark dimension and an opposite universe that's unobservable by the human eye. And so, but like Hollywood makes it this evil thing. They made that big monster with the arms that took control over the little boy. What's his name? Will. It looked like a monster. It looked like it was made of this like energy type shit. But they demonize it because they don't want you to know the true nature of the universe. Dark matter is literally the invisible hand that controls everything, and it has its own consciousness, its own algorithm, and its own awareness, and it is the very essence of all of creation and the force that brings everything together. I saw this video where it interacted with itself, and if it interacts with itself, it can manipulate not only physical matter but itself, and then it can form its own entity. It can have a dark matter object and shit, something made completely of dark matter. It can be literally like its own universe, its own reality, its own dimension of perception type shit. So based off the fact that it's directly linked to DNA, it's connected to every piece of genetic code within the atmosphere, within existence, including our own, including human beings. And that's what makes us divine. We are conscious. We have rationality. We have reason, unlike animals or plants that are also conscious entities, but they don't have personification to them. They don't have appendages. They don't have reasoning thought. They don't have logic. These things just have wills and awarenesses, and they're just living entities. We are the only ones that use reason. We have free will. We have freedom of choice. We can choose negative side of nature or the positive side of nature. And that's why morals, and that's why ideologies, and that's why belief systems, and that's why what you listen to, what you eat, and what you hear, and who you subscribe to is an idol, or who you take advice from, or what you eat, or what you drink, what you breathe in. That's why it's so important, because it can direct you towards a negative natural cycle, or it can direct you towards a positive natural cycle. And if you're directed in a negative natural cycle, like Hollywood and different media outlets and the GMOs and the subconscious programming and different things in society that are attacking you, they manipulate you more towards the negative side, more towards the negative natural cycles. And like I was saying earlier, that corrupts and distorts your filter for knowledge and information and prevents you from transforming it into wisdom. But if you focus more so on the positive side and rooted in the positive side, then you don't have that. You feel me? You can you can unlock the genetic code in the very DNA that connects to this master particle, this master energy that connects the universe, this dark matter and shit. You can unlock it because just like any other energy source, it has an electromagnetic pull to it. It attracts other energies. Just like dark matter attracts the light photons that creates the DNA, energy that you carry attracts the energy within the atmosphere and attracts things to you. The law of attraction is not just a spiritual concept, a spiritual principle where we do good things and good things come to you. It is literally a physical law of the universe type shit. Is where your energy output literally has an electromagnetic frequency. It has an algorithm to where it literally attracts other particles and other energy in the atmosphere around us to you and shit. It literally attracts on a quantum scale to where these particles attract to you. So good things do come to you, or whatever it is that you manifest from your being and shit. And that's why it's so important on what you subscribe to and shit, on who you have sex with and things like that, because those things literally alter you on a genetic level and attract different type of things to you. And either you want positive things or you want negative things. It's all about really what you subscribe to and what you want attracted into your life. So they take advantage of the fact that because everybody knows in basic biology, dormant genes and dormant genetic code, that because we have this and because it's dormant, they capitalize on that. And they want us to be dormant. They want us, that's why they put chemicals in the water. That's why they put chemicals in the food. That's why they put chemicals in the air. And that's why every time you turn on the news, there's something negative. There's barely anything positive going on. That's why the saying, all publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad, or bad news travels faster than good news, and things like that, because they want you to believe that negative energy is what, not even want you to believe, but they just want negative energy to dominate the world around us and the universe around us. So that is what we attract. The world right now, like that Future meme says,
it's an evil world we live in.
That's by design. That's by program and shit. Because that's the energy that this planet is literally carrying. And so it is attracting us. Global warming is nothing but an attraction of negative energy that's causing the planet itself to distort itself, causing earthquakes, hail, storms, and all these record-breaking weather patterns and shit. Negative, yes, of course, we're fucking up the ozone layer due to pollution, but because the negative energy is swelled up so much into the atmosphere of this planet, it is literally causing the planet within itself, Mother Nature, to decompose. It's causing death and decay and destruction and chaos and disorder and disarray and things like that, because those are the negative natural cycles and things like that. And that's what they want you to subscribe to, because just like the article just said, the dark matter in the atmosphere, it has microscopic gravitational properties to where it pulls on the energy and it manipulates based on the energy that is in the atmosphere around us type shit. And that's why it's really, really, really important that motherfuckers know the truth, so they know what they're dealing with and how to behave. That is not subjective, that these people are not telling you not to eat properly or to have a balanced diet because they want to push an agenda on you, but it's because it's literally altering the very genetic structure of your DNA and what comes into your life, what energy you attach yourself to. As I was saying earlier, this is why humans, with our reason, we are the most divine. Everything else has a part of this dark matter and this genetic structure and this genetic code. But humans are the only ones that use reason, so we're the only ones that can directly access it through sheer will and sheer freedom of choice. Every other thing has no choice but to follow the algorithm that it's born into. A dog has no choice but to be a dog and act like a dog. A cat has no choice but to act like a cat and be a cat. A tree has no choice but to be a tree. A sunflower has no choice but to be a sunflower. Oxygen has no choice but to be oxygen. A planet has no choice but to be a planet. The humans are the only things that have control over what it is they want to be and how to act. And so with that free will, we have the greatest potential. And that's what makes us divine. That's what connects us most to God himself and to the master coder, the master algorithm that combines all of existence. Even more specific for people of color, because dark matter isn't just called dark matter by coincidence. It doesn't just make up 70% of the universe by coincidence. Space isn't just black off sheer coincidence. You feel me? It's not that light cannot travel or light does not illuminate these things, but the empty, unseen space of this that makes up the 70% of the known universe is dark. Is dark matter in essence, and that translates into the melanin in our skin. We are literally the personification of dark matter. We are literally, that goes back to being children of God, the Son of God, being His offspring. That dark matter, you can see it in our skin, and only when you belong to the right side, the positive natural cycles, the side of love and creation of this master genetic code, this omniverse, this omniconscious being, can you fully unlock the latent genetic potential is given to each and every person. You have to connect to this side. You have to be on the positive side to be able to fully manifest the God particle that's within you. The dark matter that controls everything in the universe, that has his hand on everything. That's why people of color are the greatest creators. That's why everybody want to mimic us. That's why hip hop is the most influential entity, period, in the entire world. Not even just music. Everybody wants to be us. There's Chinese kids over in Asia footworking, trying to be like the Chicago kids.
ただ動画で見るだけでは必ずしもパーフェクトに解釈できるとは限らないですし、いつもそういう質問をされ、シカゴフットワークってどういうダンスなのって質問されるんですけども、世界最速の足技を踊るダンスだよって言った後にもう本人に見せます。
They get their style from us, they get their music from us, they get their beauty products from us, culture vultures, all these things. We know that we have the greatest potential because in our DNA lies dormant a genetic connection to the master code of the entire universe, the greatest creator throughout all space and time. And so that immediately transfers into us. That's why other people want to mimic us, because we are the greatest of creations. We are the greatest of creations, being the offspring of the most highest creator. None of this is by coincidence, and they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that you're literally genetically connected to the master of the universe, to everything, to the energy, the conscious being that has brought everything into existence. Because God in himself is a singular strand of DNA. He's a singular energy. He's a singular algorithm. He's a singular code. He is a genetic entity and shit. A conscious being, a conscious energy. His own universe, an omniverse. He's his own reality, a form of nature beyond each of our infinite existences. He is the accumulation of each and every parallel universe that I said earlier, that each individual person is, that each individual atom is, that each individual solar system, each different natural cycle of life is. He's the accumulation of all those things. He controls all those things. His word, his algorithm, his mathematical genetic expression, his energetic will of consciousness or will of awareness is what controls everything beyond each of our infinite consciousnesses. He's the master force behind all realities and all cyclical forms of nature, the weaver of every string of every DNA strand. He is the all, the Allah, the all, or God, if that's what you want to call him, or whatever your faith denomination or belief system calls for you to name him. And that's why black people are such geniuses. And that's why they are afraid of us. That's why they instill so much fear, even off bat, without us even being intimidating. They still are fearful of us because our genes are so dominant. Their genes are recessive, our genes are dominant type shit. The dark matter in our genetic code is so overwhelming that it dominates all the genes. That's why we stand out when we mate with a different race. You see more of the black side than you do any other side. On rare occasions, there's always exceptions to the rule. On rare occasions, you do see you have like a logic type of a person where they look a little more white than they do black. But on more occasions than not, you can tell that the child is black. That's why the saying goes, if you have a little drop of black, you're black. Because the genes are so dominant over the recessive genes that we fully manifest ourselves in anything. And that's why our intellects are always hard to stifle. That's why we always coming out on top, even if we're at the lowest type shit. We have the lowest odds, but we excel in every field. Some of the greatest athletes have been black. Some of the greatest musicians have been black. They say it's a rumor out there that Mozart himself was a black man. There's some of the greatest minds are black. Some of the greatest fighters are black. The martial arts that the Asians practice, that is derived from blacks. I want to say the Moors. I could be wrong, but I want to say the Moors. But either way, is the martial arts that they practice from the blacks. Egyptian, the structures, their belief systems, the pyramids. They still have yet to understand how they built those things. We are so exceptional with the least amount of odds. And it's through the manifestation of our genetic code. We can tap into the latent abilities of our very DNA, of God. That's the God that's within us, of our parent. And we can manifest that. And we can create just like the Creator. Because we are His children. We are the most potent form of Him. So it's no coincidence that we are the highest in all cancers. While we're getting killed in the streets like the way we do, while we're the most oppressed, while we're the most kept down, while we're the most shit on, while we're the most stepped on and stepped over and looked down upon, why they portray us in the media like they do, why we were enslaved the way we were. We've been still enslaved mentally and spiritually and emotionally to this day because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of what we can accomplish. They're afraid of our potential and our latent abilities that is encoded in the very essence of our being type shit. Because our existence is an immediate threat to everyone else's existence because of our dominant traits on a basic biological level. This isn't ideologies, this isn't rhetoric, this is scientific fact. Things that you can look up for yourself. Things that you can take. Don't take my word for it, but go out and research on your own dark matter. Go out and research on your own light particles and DNA and how these things work, and gravity and things like that, and how genetically we are connected to the universe itself, and why they do everything they can to keep us down and to keep us from excelling and being great. Because Black excellence means outshining everyone. And that's what they're afraid of. They rather take us down than to share the glory and to be outdone. Because even at the lowest, at the bottom of the barrel, we still doing amazing. We still at the top of the world. Hip hop controls everything. Even if we do not directly have control over it, we still influence. We still are the major influence of the entire world. Even if it is used to manipulate the world. Even if our creativity is monetized and controlled and contractually sold over to the modern day slave masters, our output directly influences the energetic nature of the entire planet itself. And that's what they're afraid of, and that's what they don't want. They don't want us to be on the positive side, because the positive side means their immediate downfall, and that's what they don't want. And that's why the things that go on in the world go on the way they do. When this energy, when this dark matter, when this omnipotent particle manifests into the physical existence, it is of a masculine nature. In the spiritual or in its energetic, unperceivable existence, it is of a feminine nature, but it exists as both simultaneously, from which all of us came. God is neither a he or a she. It is so omniversal, it is beyond any personifying adjectives. Once manifested into the physical realm, through whether it be writing, through it be speech, which is, for example, the holy books, the Quran, the Torah, or when preachers preach, it is referred to as a he, present in the physical form as a guide, as the Father, because it's being spoken of, it's being manifested through speech, it's being manifested through writing, it's being manifested into a physical form, and that's when it becomes a he, when it manifests into the physical realm. While his energetic essence has the nature of she, the mother reproducing his code. So God, before it is manifested, its unperceivable energy is a she, it is a mother that reproduces itself, and it then manifests itself as a masculine energy, which is us, which is the child. The child is a product of the feminine and masculine energies both coexisting simultaneously and manifesting itself into a physical entity. Everything else technically is God's child, but we are God's child in essence that we have reason. We can manipulate the cycles. We can manipulate the ladder of existence. We can manipulate the different energies. We have freedom of choice, and we can manipulate ourselves. We can either use our ego and selfishly advance in the world and ultimately succumb to the influence of these cycles and life and death and be forever tied down to fear and death in our own present physical reality, or we can subscribe to the positive and have everlasting life. And that's what the concept of he gave his only begotten son, because you have to crucify the flesh. You have to crucify or let go of your physical existence. You have to let go the masculine and feminine energy together. When it combines and creates this physical entity, creates the child, you have to let go of the physical so that you can live forever in the spiritual or in the energetic conscious form. The first law of physics is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So to access this everlasting life, you have to detach yourself and crucify the flesh and become one with your spirit, become one with this energy, with a God particle that creates all of existence. And that speaks on the Immaculate Conception, the masculine and feminine energies, two of the same entity coming together and manifesting itself into the physical form over and over and over again, constantly rebirthing itself. That's the Trinity. The Father, the Mother, and the Holy Spirit, or the Son, is an infinite Immaculate Conception, a constant cycle, a constant spiral. It ever expands. It expands at an infinite level beyond our infinite consciousness itself. It is beyond infinite, because each being is an infinite entity in itself. And God, the God, his energy, his essence, his will of awareness, his conscious being is even more vast than that. It encompasses each individual aspect of reality, of creation. God constantly births himself through us into the physical form. As we manifest, we take dark energies. It creates our DNA. It births itself as a human being, and that's God in the physical form. That's what makes us the Son. We are, in essence, the human race is Jesus himself, and on one of the levels of perception. Not only was Jesus a real person, but Jesus also represents humankind in its entirety, because in itself, it is the child of God. It is the product of God. Our dreams, our visions, our intuition, our subconscious mind is how we experience it all. Spiritual conversation, your intuition, your gut feeling is you connecting, you accessing that part of your DNA that connects to every particle of the universe. And because it is the master of space and time, it has these gravitational waves. It lives in the past, future, and present all at the same time. It exists in each version of reality all at the same time. And our subconscious mind is how we connect and how we experience God's infinite creation. Our dreams, our visions, our gut feelings, this is how we experience all of these things. We don't physically experience it. In the waking world, you can't be in the past, future, and present all at the same time. But when you go to sleep at night and your physical body is shut down, your mind is expanded to the infinite energies of the universe. It unlocks the DNA subconsciously. And whatever energy that your DNA, your genetic structure is subscribed to, is the energy that attracts on an electromagnetic level into your dreams and your visions. And that's how you experience all of God's infinite creation, through your subconscious mind. And that's why they attack the subconscious mind so heavily, because it's the most important part of your infinite consciousness. Your physical being, not so much, but your infinite consciousness is more closely connected to your subconscious mind. That's why subconscious programming is such a big thing with Hollywood. Like, have you ever had a dream that caused deja vu, or a dream that might have manifested itself in the future, or a vision of sorts, or maybe you might have heard a voice in your head that told you something wasn't right, and then something turned out not to be right. It ended up being correct, that something's not going quite right in that moment in time. That's you connecting to the universe around you. That's you connecting to God. That's the genetic algorithm in your very DNA connecting to you. Because if you were to manifest as God himself, it's just a reflection of you. It's just your perception type shit. So if God was to come to you as a human being, it will come looking as you. Because God is nothing but a reflection of yourself. These infinite cycles, each rung on the ladder, each string is nothing but a reflection of yourself. Each atom is a reflection of yourself. Your universe that you live in is a reflection of yourself. Your perception literally alters the universe around you. It creates everything that you perceive. And if you alter your perception, you alter what it is you perceive. You alter the very energy that you attract to yourself. You alter the very nature and the essence of the things around you. And the more negativity, the more negative cycles you subscribe to, the more finite your existence is. So not only do you just experience negative nature, but your infinite existence becomes more finite. It becomes less infinite. Your dreams, you disconnect from your dreams. You stop hearing that voice in your head to tell you what's wrong and what's right. You stop having intuition. Your intuition is a little off sometimes. Your gut feeling is a little off sometimes. You disconnect from God himself. He stops talking. He stops communicating to you. Because the spirit, the energy, and the atmosphere is not just the vibe. We're not just catching the vibes. It is literally the vibrational algorithm of the genetic structure of your very being. You're either on God's good vibe, connecting with his positive nature and unlocking his everlasting consciousness, genetically coding within you, which is heaven, which is why they say heaven is a state of mind, because heaven is literally the energy that your mind absorbs and connects to your genetic structure. It is literally your consciousness. It is literally your physical, not your physical, but your energetic existence. And what you perceive as an energy is what you perceive in the spirit. Or you're his bad vibe, stuck in an infinite cycle of death and fear, forever confined to your immediate physical reality, as I said earlier. And that's where hell comes from. Because you can constantly die and be reborn in an infinite cycle, stuck in fear in an immediate physical reality, rather than looking at the bigger picture, expanding your consciousness at an infinite rate, to where you can see and observe the different levels of energy and realms and dimensions. The mind is the key to unlocking all of that, to being able to see everything, to see all of this, to perceive all of this. It is the filter in which it all comes into you. So without the proper mind, you can be stuck in limbo. You can be a slave, a mental zombie, not knowing that you have choices to even choose from. You can just be walking day to day, going to work, going home, going to sleep, eating, and repeating the same cycles, not having the purpose, not connecting to the higher realms of God's consciousness, not connecting or exercising your infinite awareness, your infinite consciousness. You can live life not knowing these things, not knowing the reality of Jesus, the reality of God, not knowing the universe around you on a microscopic or macroscopic level. So it's up to you to decide, do you want to access your genetic structure? You feel me? Do you want to unlock your latent potential? Do you want to become an infinite conscious being? Do you want your energy alter on a genetic level to where you literally attract all the good energy in the universe, to where all good things come to you? Do you want to talk to God? Do you want to visit and experience all of his creation and travel the universe? Do you want to expand past time and space? Do you want to expand past your immediate reality? Do you want to conquer depression? Do you want to conquer all the negative things that come into your life? Do you want to conquer pain? Do you want to conquer your trauma, your experiences? Don't you want to live an everlasting life and be blissful? Do you want to subscribe to positive energy, to the positive natural cycles, and live in complete bliss for all of eternity? You should eat right and diet and live life according to the natural laws of the universe. Because going against those laws clogs your brain. It literally prevents you from expanding your mind and literally connecting and talking to God. Because like I say, spirituality is easy to claim nowadays. It's easy to say you're spiritual, but to actually access all those things and experience all the realities, the web of reality, the string, the light fabric of reality, the energy of dark matter, and God himself, to unlock the potential of your very genetic structure, of the melanin within you. That's what it's all about, G. It really is. You gotta get yourself right, because the energy is shifting, and there's gonna be a divide between the natural negative cycles and the natural positive cycles. It's just gonna ramp up further and further, and you really have to pick a side. Heaven and hell, the reality state of each individual particle within your being, each genetic structure is gonna have to choose a side, and it's gonna separate. You're either gonna stay or you're gonna go. technology was messing up, so I had to continue to do this video over and over and over again, which messed up the continuity of my dialogue and my conversation, and so everything was just all over the place. But give me your feedback; it'd be much appreciated. Comment your thoughts, everything, what you want me to speak on next. Like, subscribe, all that. You feel me? I gotta go now. This shit fucking up.